Hello and welcome to the Rays of Hope program brought to you by the Purchase Area Sexual Assault and Child Advocacy Center. I'm your host, Mary Foley. Thank you so much for joining us for today's program. Today we have with us Angie York from the Purchase Area Sexual Assault Center, and we have Cathy Croft from Lone Oak Elementary. So thank you both for being here. I appreciate it. Today we're going to be talking about the education program of the Purchase Area Sexual Assault and Child Advocacy Center, and it seems fitting because we're wrapping up on yet another school year. So before we actually get into the meat of our program, Cathy, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you here today.
I'm the guidance counselor at Hendron Lone Oak Elementary, and this is my 8th year there as a counselor.
Wow.
And we have about 650 students at my school.
Wow.
So we have a large school.
Yes, you do.
Many students with a lot of different issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I've worked with the Purchase Area Sexual Assault Center this year and had just a lot of good success working with them, and was specifically working with Angie. Mm-hmm. And I was very excited when I saw the programs that you offered. Mm-hmm. And tried to implement some of those, and love having any outside agencies that can come in and help in any way with our students.
Well, thank you so much, and I can't wait to hear, for our viewers to hear what that experience has been like and how it's affected your school. Mm-hmm. So thanks for being here with us today. And Angie, you've been on the program before, but for those that maybe haven't seen the program in a while, or for some new viewers, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at the center.
All right, well, I'm the Director of Education at the center, so basically that means I'm in charge of conducting programs for the community, for school systems, for churches, basically anyone who wants to know more about our center, and I just go work with those people on, basically by their schedule, the best we can work it out to come into their centers and their schools and perform some of our programs that we do.
And speaking of programs, let's talk a little bit, you referenced some of the programs as well. Let's talk about what are the programs that we're talking about today. What are their titles and what's their content?
Probably the program that I have spent the most time on all year long would be bullying. That seems to be a problem that we see no matter what school I'm in, any of the 8 counties, everybody seems to have the same problem. So we actually have bullying programs that start from 1st grade and go on up through 9th or 10th grade, and different curriculums for each grade level, and we just work with whatever grade that the guidance counselors might think need that more than the other. So.
I see. So bullying is a big one.
Yes.
What are some other programs that you have found helpful for the school systems?
One of my favorite programs is the Get Active program, and that is where we go into the school for, usually I try to get 5 days in a particular classroom, and we do different topics every day, but we cover things like respect, just respect for your classmates, respect for the people around you. We cover topics like how to respond to a situation from an assertive standpoint rather than being aggressive. And it also encompasses a huge part, or a huge awareness piece, which talks about sexual assault, what it is, what to do if you've been affected by it, who you can call, how you might feel. And we cover statistics, some of the things that these students need to know about how prevalent it is, especially in our area.
Sure. So I want to bring you in, Cathy, at this point. I mean, she's mentioned some of the programs offered by the center, and as I'm sitting back, I'm thinking, gosh, have we really come to the place where we just need to go in and reteach the basic principles of being kind to one another, being respectful, being assertive, being, those sorts of things? Can you talk to me about why you think those are important?
Yes, I think the answer to your question is yes, we have maybe come to that point. Unfortunately, some of our students do come to school. Our students come as early as age 3 in our preschool program.
Wow.
And maybe for whatever reason have not learned those basic social skills that we're talking about in the home setting for a variety of reasons. Or haven't been exposed maybe to situations where there's a lot of other children around that they've had to learn to share and be respectful. And so yes, we are finding that we are needing to go back and teach those very basic fundamental life skills of how we treat each other and being respectful and taking care of our problems in a positive way rather than a negative way. So we are starting that at a very early age and work on that all the way through, in my school, 5th grade, before we send them to middle school. So yes, we're doing that. We try to do that throughout the whole day in all areas of our curriculum and everything we do. We try to put that in as a sidebar to everything else we do. But anytime we can get very specific with specific programs, that helps.
Well, and Angie, you talk about that being one of your favorite programs, being the Get Active program, because it hits on a variety of topics. What has your experience been in terms of the students' responsiveness to those topics?
It's very interesting. The first day, I actually have an activity that I do the first day when I start that program, and I have the students actually write down their name with the hand that they normally write with, and then I ask them to write it again with their opposite hand. And then I have them describe to me, how does that feel? And I always get words like hard, difficult, awkward, things like that. And that is my premise, to teach them, to start with them, to say that what we're going to talk about this week, it is hard. It is awkward to talk about. It is going to be difficult for us to talk about, because these are some hard topics that we're going to touch on. But with that, from the first time I see them at that point when they're giggly and laughing and they're sexual assault, ha ha, to that last day that I spend with them, when there's complete silence in the room, they're very understanding that this is a problem. They're very respectful. You can see an attitude change, and that's why I think it's so important. I can see that in just 5 days with them. My hope is that when I leave the room, that continues, and I hope that we can see that over a period of time. But to me, I think it's a huge change that I see even in those 5 days.
And so, when you leave the room, at that 5-day mark, you're hoping that it continues. Have you seen any of those attitude changes continue since these topics have been addressed? Maybe not just by PASAC, but by a variety of people. Are you seeing a change?
I can say I guess I see a change with some. Of course, we have our students, 6.5 hours a day, and then they go home and then they come back, and some days are good days, and we do see some of that, and then we have to go back and do a lot of reteaching, just like you do with anything. You have to just reteach, remind, be positive role models ourselves working with students. So it's an ongoing process. It's not just something that changes just after 5 days.
Sure.
But it's something we can remind them of.
So, when you've partnered with PASAC, like you said, you've worked with Angie and some of the programs that we offer.
Right.
How was it helpful to you to partner with us? Why was it helpful?
Anytime. I'm always looking for other outside resources, just any other help, other ideas, other programs that we can't necessarily always offer in the school system or haven't had access to. And so when I can bring someone else in that's a fresh face with fresh ideas, my students see me every single day.
Right.
It's always great. Then we can zero in on a particular topic, and they can get a constant a reminder of that, and somebody different coming in to give maybe the same information we've given in a different way.
Sure.
But it just helps to do that, and we just love any outside sources that we can get. It's great.
Some of the concerns that we have heard at the center, I know when I've helped with education programs, I know Angie, you and I have talked about this, is that maybe teachers feel like, oh, my time is so limited already. I don't have time. What you do is good, I don't have time for you to come in and talk about this topic. What would you say to that teacher or to that guidance counselor that says, I don't think I can make the time for this?
Sometimes you just have to say we can't not take the time to do it, because oftentimes we can't get to the basics of teaching core content if we're having to deal with a lot of other issues like bullying or bad social skills or things happening throughout the day. Unless you have those students' full undivided attention, you can't get to what we're actually there to do. But that's also part of learning as well, all of this, the other parts that go along with it. And it can be an issue sometimes with scheduling, and because our teachers are very busy trying to teach core content and get everything in that the state requires of them. That is very difficult, and we're a very busy school. But We just try to do the best we can and insert these programs when we can. And also sometimes we have to go back and readjust and think maybe there's a better time of the year to do something than we did it maybe 1 year before. So we're always looking.
And you bring up the phrase core content, and I know Angie is going to have something to add to that because our program is unique with core content consideration. So will you talk just a moment for the viewers that may be school administrators, teachers, would you talk about how the Get Active program keeps that in mind?
Absolutely. That's one of the great things about Get Active is I actually have a list of core content points that it covers. And for those of you that don't know, core content is basically what the state says this has to be taught before students can move on to the next grade. There's core content points for each level. And Get Active has those core content points laid out. I can just hand the administrator, the guidance counselor, the teacher a piece of paper and say, here it is. Here's what you plug into your lesson plans. And it's a huge selling point, where they might have thought, oh, this doesn't fit in. I can give it to them and say, oh yeah, it does fit in. So
has that been helpful?
Very much so.
Okay.
Yes, because all of those things, like Angie said, do have to be addressed. So that's one less thing then a teacher has to worry about putting in her lesson plans or fulfilling for the year. She can check that off. That's been done. And so that's great. That's very helpful for us in the school system.
Well, and I'm thinking too about just a wide variety of age groups and topics and issues that may arise. And, sometimes it does help when another face that they don't see every day comes in, and then sometimes it helps that it's a familiar face that they see. How has that partnership worked for Hinder and Lone Oak to have a fresh face, but to have it reinforced by someone like you? It's
been very positive. Actually, the one program I'd like to mention that we specifically implemented was the Internet Safety Program. And so our teachers were very receptive to that. Our students loved it when it was brought in, and then we periodically could bring up points that were mentioned in that. I mean, I learned things myself, even as a counselor, that I had not thought about. So it was very useful. Our kids loved it. Our teachers were very positive and very receptive to it.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. We're getting ready in just a few moments to go to a break, and when we come back, I'd like to talk about maybe some of those specific issues that arise in the classroom and that parents may be interested in hearing. Before we do that, we've gotten her take on the Internet Safety Program. As the presenter, what do you hope that program accomplishes?
That's actually probably my second favorite program to teach. I absolutely love it because, especially in the middle school and high school setting, students are on the internet day in and day out. They don't understand that there are dangers there. And so, part of my job is to let them know, I understand that you want to, meet new people, meet friends. I understand you want to put your picture on there and let people see what you look like, but you also need to understand that there are dangers to that. There are serious consequences. And if anyone who watches, NBC or Dateline To Catch a Predator, anything like that, it's happening in our area, and these, kids need to be aware of that. So, the internet safety it really, I think, kind of brings it home that the internet, we're not using it for what it was originally intended for, as a way to gain knowledge, as a way to research, and we're using it, or tend to be using it for a dating service and or to meet new friends, and that's not what it's there for. So that lesson really brings home that point and helps students to understand that.
Okay, thank you both. So far we've gotten some valuable information. We're going to take a quick break and you're going to be able to see on your screen when we do some of the programs that we do offer at the Purchase Area Sexual Assault and Child Advocacy Center. And when we come back, we're going to specifically give you, the parent, or you, the caretaker, an inside look into the classroom and maybe some things that you need to keep in mind. We'll see you in just a moment. Welcome back to the Rays of Hope program. I'm your host today, Mary Foley, and with us we have Angie York from the Purchase Area Sexual Assault and Child Advocacy Center, Cathy Croft from Hendron Lone Oak Elementary. Welcome back to both of you. We've been talking in this last segment just about the education year for the center, you going into the school systems and providing education programmings, how that's benefited your specific school, why teachers might want to consider that process. But after having that conversation, some other points were brought up, like your favorite program is the bullying program. Tell us again, why is that your favorite program?
The bullying, I think, is very important because we're seeing it at all age levels.
Mm-hmm.
It's different at each age level. You know, it may be pulling somebody's hair or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, tapping somebody on the shoulder or something in the elementary school, all the way up to severe sexual harassment in high school levels.
Mm-hmm.
And I think many times these students, it bothers them. They know it's a problem, but they don't understand it's a problem they can do something about. So going in and letting them recognize, you know, what's happening to them is bullying, is a problem, and then giving them the resources that they need. You know, that makes it worthwhile for them, and it's very important that they hear that information, that they know where they can go or know who they can talk to about it.
Is that consistent, Cathy, with your view of what happens in your school? Is bullying a problem?
You know, I can't say that I consider it a problem because we are very strict, that's the appropriate word to use, against bullying. We have a zero tolerance for it, just like you would for alcohol, drugs, weapons, because it can be a very serious issue. We take it very seriously.
Okay.
Bullying is nothing new. I mean, there were bullies around when we were in school. So bullying's been going on for years and years and years. But we have found, unfortunately, in the recent years with school violence and all that, that a lot of times when you look back, the root cause of some of that sometimes was bullying, and it started at the elementary level. It didn't start just in middle school.
That's right.
And didn't start just in high school. That's why we take it so seriously, because we know that that is where it starts. So we address those issues very specifically, very decisively at my school. Now, I'm not going to say we don't have some, because we do. We do have some, but we do deal with it when we're aware of it. The importance is teaching children that it's okay, and how important it is to tell someone if they feel like they're being bullied. You know, a lot of times they don't like to use those words, or people don't want to feel like that they are bullying. They don't think what they're doing is bullying, and sometimes that needs to be brought to their attention. Yes, this is what this is called when you're doing some of these things. Specifically, maybe sometimes when we're talking to girls. You know, that's usually the big shocker to some of my girls when I say, yes, you're being a bully. You know, it's not just boys. And
So go ahead and educate our viewers on, just as you would educate an elementary student, what do you tell a child is bullying behavior?
when you're doing something to someone that on a continuous basis that you know they don't like, they've asked you to stop, you know you're making them uncomfortable, but you're continuing to do it, and it's something that you're getting some kind of pleasure from, and we talk about that being bullying. You know, whether that's just giving somebody a shrug of a shoulder every day, ignoring someone, not including people. We talk about a variety of things. You know, it's not just the hitting and the pulling hair and those types of things. It's more of the subtle type things that I deal with more in the school setting.
Well, and Angie, you know, you have seen not only Hendron Lone Oak, but you've seen across the 8 counties. And so there are those schools that have those very strict policies, and I'm certain that that does help reduce the incidences that you see. But, you know, as a parent, if I'm watching this program today, I might think, I hadn't thought about bullying in that light, or bullying's not really a problem in my county or my school. How big of a problem have you seen collectively across the Purchase area?
I think it really is a huge problem, and I think that unfortunately many of the schools don't take it seriously. And the reaction that I'm getting from the children is that they don't feel like they can go tell a teacher, go talk with a principal or a guidance counselor. I get the feeling that they're busy, or just deal with it, or it's not that big of a problem. If you're physically hurt, you're bleeding, it's that serious, then yeah, they're going to handle it. But And one of the things I get a lot from the kids is, well, that's tattling. And I try to let the kids understand tattling is when you're trying to get someone in trouble. Telling, is when you're trying to get help for somebody, when somebody really needs help. If you're being bullied and you're uncomfortable with it and you're being harassed, you need to get help for it. And that's different than when you're tattling to get somebody in trouble.
And Cathy, I think you also, you brought up an excellent point in that your school takes this very seriously and supports teachers in that effort, supports parents, and supports kids.
Right.
What would you say to a child that may be watching that, like Angie says, Miss Croft, you say that I can tell, but I don't feel like I can. What would you advise them to do?
Well, we tell our students that there's many people in our building. It doesn't just have to be their teacher that they can tell. We have custodians that some of our kids really get close to. We have cafeteria workers. We have different assistants in the building, of course myself. We have all kinds of adults in the building that they can go to and report. Obviously, they need to tell their parents at home, and then their parents can come and let us know, which sometimes is the way we do find out. Unfortunately, a lot of times we don't, I tell the other kids, they're my eyes and ears, because kids are smart enough, they're not going to bully in front of an adult. They're going to do it where we don't see things, and when we talk about where those things happen. So there are eyes and ears. They need to, if they even see somebody else being bullied, they're not being bullied, they have a responsibility to report it to us. But there's many people that they can go to report that. It doesn't just have to be their teacher, and it doesn't just have to be the principal. It can be any trusted person in the building that they feel like that they can go and just talk with.
And so, Angie, when you do, like Cathy's saying, when you do tell them what bullying behavior looks like and what their plan of action can be, what is their response at that point?
Many times it's like, wow, or a shock. I didn't realize I could do this. I didn't realize I could be an important part of this. And one thing Cathy just brought up about even if the bullying wasn't happening to you, but you saw it, then you could go and share that with an adult. Part of the big push in prevention right now is what we call bystander intervention, and that's what that is. I'm just standing by watching it, and I see it, even though it didn't happen directly to me, but I can play a part in this. I can help stop this if I will go and talk to a teacher about it. And so that is another thing we have been trying to encourage in the last few months of working with students, is that bystander intervention is a huge, that's a huge thing that people can do.
Well, and I think it's wonderful that, again, that the program is available and the policies are in place to merge that partnership to keep our kids safe. And I guess if I were watching, like so many of our viewers are today, if my child has not told me that they're being bullied, what are some things I need to look for to see if maybe that's going on and they've not been comfortable to come home and tell me for whatever reason? They're tattling, they're afraid, whatever. What are some signs and symptoms that you see come into your office from a child that's being bullied?
Not wanting to come to school, obviously, being sick, complaining, just a change in their behavior, some type of change, a change maybe in not wanting to be around certain people, certain friends. We actually had a student, this has been several years ago, but we actually had a student who was being bullied. No one knew about it. He had not reported. His hair started falling out. He was getting very, very sick. They were taking him to the doctor. There was nothing physically wrong, and then it just finally, that was an extreme case. That's extreme, but you have to look for changes in your child's behavior. A lot of times it's usually them not wanting to come to school, or just suddenly having sick tummy, especially at the elementary level.
Right. Okay. And Angie, we've talked at the center about advocacy services having to expand to address this problem as the grades, obviously go up. Middle school, high school, sometimes it can be sexual harassment, it can be a severe problem. What do you do as the Director of Education when you are notified by a student that they are being bullied? What do you do?
The process that we take is, first of all, I like to work through the guidance counselor, because basically they know that person. I don't. I'm just getting, I'm believing what they're saying, and then I need someone there on their, that works with them on a daily basis to kind of walk with me through this. But then once I get that person involved, we basically have to look into it as a report. If it's severe enough, we may need to turn this into DCBS. We may need to, take this on to a different level. But certainly I bring the information that I have back to the center, and we work with our victims advocate on what can we, what do we need to do with the school? Do we need to involve the principal? Do all the parents are all the parties informed that need to be? We just look at it from that standpoint to make sure everyone knows what's going on, and hopefully all working toward the goal of getting the bullying stopped.
And we focused a lot, and we don't have a lot of time left on the program. We've certainly focused a lot on the bullying specifically because we've heard so much of it, and the internet safety issue. And you say your kids love that. And that really all goes into healthy relationships and respect and some of those programs that you do bring into the center. But where I'd like to kind of wrap up the program today is, what do I do if my child is the bully? What would be your advice to a viewer that says, my child is the bully? I know that our part-time educator who focuses on the elementary schools really talks to them about using that leadership and using that in a positive way. What would you say?
I think if I were the parent, I would try to figure out, in talking with my child, why they feel that they need to bully. Because we usually talk about reasons why kids bully, and that's usually because there's something that they don't feel good about themselves. So then therefore they don't want other people to feel good. So what is it about themselves that they feel like they have to have power over other people? And it just involves a lot of parent communication and really understanding your child, having sit down talks. Sometimes it may entail outside, more intensive counseling for the whole family, not just that child, because it's probably a bigger issue than just that child's issue, whatever that might be. And if it's a big problem, sometimes it's just sometimes just kids not realizing, not wanting to take responsibility for some of their actions, and usually just some significant consequences, both at school and at home, will take care of it. But if it's a bigger problem, it may need some outside resource help, like in counseling.
Okay, thank you. We are out of time. It goes by so fast. And in that situation, you would help provide that referral.
Certainly.
And PASAC can help provide that referral. Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Rays of Hope, and we will see you next time.